Hey there, Rick Sage, recording at the Rimrock Studios in Bishop, California. Welcome to Season 2 of the Outdoor Biz Podcast, where I speak with retailers, brand managers, athletes, executives, and others in the outdoor biz and share their stories, tips, advice, productivity tricks, and ideas you can use to take your career or business to the next level. Today's episode is brought to you in part by the Something About Nothing podcast. Think the Seinfeld show meets your favorite morning show. It's a few regular folks from outside Seattle, Washington, talking around the table about sports, the news of the day, and the absurdity of life. Something About Nothing is an entertaining variety show that covers all the stuff you want to talk about but aren't supposed to. Available wherever you listen to podcasts, including Spotify. Check it out today. Just search SOMETHIN about NOTHIN. You won't believe how fun listening to a show about nothing can be. You're going to love my conversation with Sara Ray Lewis from Rock Creek Outfitters. Sara tells us about her science background, how she got into the outdoors, and how a vegetarian became the best organic grocery meat buyer in Knoxville. Enjoy. Hey, Sara, welcome to the show. How you doing today?
Oh, fantastic. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, great to chat with you again. You were on the Waypoint episode a couple weeks ago. That was very fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, it turned out good. So I have some interesting questions for you to start off with. You have some very technical education. How did you get into that path?
Well, I'm in that generation that's kind of between, kind of a tweener generation. So,
Yeah.
I was raised on the, follow your dreams and, and choose the path that you want. And so I was always good at science and, I guess curious to nature. So I chose, for my schooling, I just chose science. It made sense to me. That was what I did best in high school. And so it made sense to carry on.
Yeah.
I've got a biology degree.
Cool.
The focus of that is on ecology, and further into that, I'm obsessed with plants, and botany is definitely what fueled that passion. So that's definitely in a weird way, my right brain schooling fulfills my left brain needs. It's definitely the part of me that I love the most.
And so when you're outdoors these days, do you identify all the plants, and are you the person all that
These
stuff?
days,
it's great to have someone like that on trips. I love that.
It's so fun. Yeah. I love getting people to look at the things that are smaller than a nickel,
Right.
Kind of, you're already looking at your feet, making sure you don't fall.
Right.
But then just to, kind of bring the tiny bits of life, in the forest. And right now, springtime, it's hard to get me out of the woods. It's beautiful.
The flowers
it's just beautiful
and stuff.
here.
So how'd you get into the woods? What was your first exposure to the outdoors?
My family, we didn't grow up wealthy. So our vacations were, we'd go for a week on vacation and we'd go to the state park that was 15 minutes away.
We did the same, camping. Yeah.
I loved it. I mean, I've got an older brother. So we were just partners in crime for a week, riding our bikes, going swimming in the lake and going hiking. It was just, how our family recreated.
Cool. Yeah.
My mom is, super adventurous. I'm thankful for that. And, but I definitely attribute my outdoor love to my parents. Super thankful for that.
So many of us, have that connection. And what was your first outdoor job? Outdoor.
I guess Rock Creek.
Okay,
I'd have to say Rock Creek, where I am now. So I worked at Rock Creek in college. I used to go hang out at Rock Creek and read guidebooks on my lunch break. At Ace Hardware is where I originally started working.
Oh, wow. Okay,
but on my lunch breaks, I'd go hang out at Rock Creek, and the guys got to know me. My boyfriend at the time, who's now my husband, we went on a road trip to Bishop, California, and Squamish, and we were just a bunch of Tennessee kids, and so when I got back from that road trip, the manager of Rock Creek came and sat next to me in the little book section of the store where I was just reading. I think I was reading about the Bishop Boulders, and
nice.
and he just started asking me about the road trip, and we were just having a conversation, and then he was like, "Well, do you want to work here?" And anyway, that's how it started.
That's very
it was
cool. Yeah,
as organic as that. Just a gear shop nerd.
Yeah.
And then
out there so much, you might as well get paid to hang out there, right?
Right. Yeah. Now I'm just like the biggest gear shop nerd.
Yeah, we all get there, I think.
Yeah.
So you've been at Rock Creek for about 5 years, I think. I think if I read the my research
on this stint. So I worked for 5 years at Rock Creek, and then I actually left for about 10 years after college. Left and then came back 5 years ago. So
gotcha.
Yeah,
and somewhere in there I saw something about Three Rivers Market. Tell us about Three Rivers Market. That sounds interesting.
Yeah, it's an organic natural food store in Knoxville. It's a cooperative grocery.
Oh, cool.
I loved it. It was I just started right after college, moved up to Boston. Then I got a job at a gear shop in Asheville, North Carolina.
Okay.
Shout out to Black Dome.
There you go.
Those folks are out here. But then I started working at Three Rivers Market as a part-time gig because my husband and I had moved to Knoxville, and it was one of those situations where I just started out as a cashier, and like all good things, quickly became the merchandise manager for the store.
Oh, cool.
During that time, we were going through a transition. We were in a house, and we were working on building a LEED certified legit grocery. So,
wow.
I was
that must have been a cool experience.
It was so fun to, go from just 3 aisles of grocery to 10 aisles.
Right.
One of my favorite things about that, I think it was a really good test as a buyer. One of my favorite things, I've been a vegetarian since I was a teenager. And when we did the expansion, I became a meat buyer. And
that's interesting.
I think it's funny, it's just kind of a testament to if you're a good observer, you can purchase anything. The data tells you what to buy.
Yeah, do your homework,
Yeah. So as a vegetarian, I am confident I was the best meat buyer in Knoxville.
That's great. So you did your research. You know all about the various meats and healthy meats and what's good and bad about meat.
And,
that's
here
great.
in the South, you really just have to know about bacon. That's really all you got to find out. And then you get the best bacon, you're going to win.
There you go. That's funny. And so your immersion in the outdoor biz really happened, with your first stint at Rock Creek and then again at Rock Creek, and you started out on the floor, I assume, right? And then worked your way up to buying?
Yeah, I did that, the first 5 years at Rock Creek. And for those math whizzes out there, it did take me 5 years to get through my undergrad.
It took me, I didn't do it in 4 either, so.
I think, not ashamed of that.
Nope,
it just meant I had a good college.
Fun. Exactly. Yeah.
But then when I came back to Rock Creek, I had really developed professionally. So, the then owner at the time, Dawson Wheeler, had called me and we had stayed in contact. He's been a mentor of mine for many, many years, but he called while I was working at the grocery up in Knoxville and just said that they needed a women's buyer. And would I be interested? And, I'm thankful for that call because it definitely has shaped me more professionally. But, I had to make that choice of, okay, we're moving back home. My husband and I had been away for 10 years. So we decided to move back and, I knew the people at Rock Creek. I felt good about the work I'd be doing. And, so, I'm probably just an example of somebody they can't get rid of.
Well, you must be doing a good job. That's for sure.
I hope so.
And a lot, I talk about this, I think, on every episode. So many of us just kind of hacked our way into the biz and then stumbled up into a career that turns out 20 years later, it's like, wow, that kind of made something here. That's cool, so.
Yeah. No, I agree. And, I think keeping the relationships while I was out of the outdoor business happened completely organically.
Right.
I wanted those relationships because I like the people.
Yeah.
And that's what I guess keeps me coming back.
Yeah, that's cool. So what are some of the accomplishments you're most proud of at Rock Creek? You guys have come a long way. It's a great shop. I mean,
yeah, Rock Creek is second to none in specialty, if you ask me, which of course I'm going to be biased. But, my favorite thing professionally at Rock Creek, when I first came on board, we were coming out of a stint of 2 years where we didn't have a women's buyer. And the guys did a great job at doing the best they could picking out women's products. So, we didn't carry past a size large. So, I remember the first orders I made, every style extra large. If the vendor made 2X, I brought in 2X. And so, we went from just a period where we weren't even hitting 50% of the market. We just weren't even carrying the sizes that women needed. To now, this spring, we've launched our first plus size assortment.
Oh, wow.
So, I'm proud of that from, I guess, a woman in the outdoor business, but also just to show that, we're specialty outdoor and you don't have to fit into any mold to go outside.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
So, just from a data perspective, I like being able to fit any person that comes into our store.
And you have a lot of options now. 10, 20 years ago, we've come a long ways in the industry as well, providing more options for women.
Certainly. And there's nothing but opportunity ahead of us.
Right.
That's one of the reasons I love outdoors. It's a great group of people, but we've got a long way to go.
Yeah, still a lot of runway left.
Yeah.
And how about some of your mentors? You mentioned Dawson that have helped you along the way. Any others?
I certainly can't go without talking about Dawson and Marvin of Rock Creek.
Right.
Exceptionally great guys.
I got to get those guys on the show.
God, yeah, you'd need to set aside hours.
Right.
Great storytellers for sure. But they've been great at supporting me and, and making sure that, I'm not held back in any way, but that's more of a professional side where they've been my bosses. So
right.
definitely, a different perspective there.
It's nice to have bosses though that also care about you and are concerned about you and
certainly
want to see you grow. Yeah, that's important.
And I'm proud of outdoor for that reason. There's a lot of male dominance in the outdoor world. So, I think back and I think of, there's a few great men that have, been able to support my position in outdoor as, a gender minority. Trent Thomas from Black Dome has been a great mentor. And then Dawson and Marvin and even Chad and Jonathan that are the current owners of Rock Creek. I treat all of them like friends and professional mentors. The female that stands out, the woman named Jackie from Knoxville, she was my boss at the grocery and,
oh, cool.
She is a shark. Ooh, I love her. So I've been fortunate. I think going back to my education being so science focused, I'm an observer. So everyone that comes in my path, I'm just, what do I want to take from them? What do I want to leave with them? I just am constantly trying to pick up the best attributes from everyone.
Yeah, you probably have a very analytical mind as well, I would assume.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I'm a great at a hypothesis. And that's something that's, this time in retail, I feel like retail is on its head. We're coming out of a 30-year cycle and the things that we've been able to take for granted historically are no longer there. Yeah. And, we've got to be able to set up smart experiments and learn from the outcomes and fail a little and then try again and look for those successes that can be duplicatable.
Yeah, really learn how to capture and analyze the data, right? There's so much opportunity out there. I think we're getting better at that, but like you said before, a long way to go on that as well. Yeah. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, I've seen in the last 5 years a complete size bell curve shift.
Oh, right.
And I don't, like I said, I don't know if that's just the South, but, if we weren't carrying extra large 5 years ago, it is now just as important to me as a size small in women's. The entire curve is shifted upward and, the data is what tells you that.
Yeah, right.
That's not something you can observe.
Yeah. And what about some nonprofit work that you do? You guys work with any nonprofits? I'm sure you do.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that's something that the grocery business kind of taught me. Kind of the transparency in business and how business can be used to have a positive effect on your community. And at Rock Creek, I mean, one of my most favorite nonprofit gigs that I do, I work with breast cancer support services here locally in Chattanooga, and we do a fashion show with them once a year where all of the models are survivors. And so the whole goal is to make them feel good in the skin that they're in, with a post-surgery body or, kind of overcoming that drag that cancer can have on your persona.
It just drains you.
I love working with them, and making sure that, the men and women that, get diagnosed with cancer, that the awareness is there to get them the support that they need.
That's great. We'll put a link to that in the show notes. Yeah, that's great.
I mean, we work with a ton of nonprofits here from
a lot of
Southeastern Farmers Coalition and Access Fund. And I would say every item that I sell on the Rock Creek sales floor has some link to a nonprofit.
That's great.
That's what makes it special, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Where you're giving back and supporting the places we all love to play. So, and that's so important these days. Yeah. Well, we'll link to they're all listed on your website, I'm sure, right?
Oh yeah, certainly.
Cool.
Certainly.
We'll link to all those guys
provide that with you too.
In the show notes. Yeah. Definitely link to the breast cancer group too. That's awesome. And I think we may have talked about this before, but what outdoor activities do you participate in? I think you mentioned you're a big paddler. Water sports.
I like stand-up paddleboarding. I run, a few days a week. I make sure that those are kind of in my weekly activities. But I'm open to everything. There's not a sport that I'm not interested in.
That's great.
I think a couple winters ago, I love snowboarding. Being from Tennessee, I get to go probably once a year.
I was going to say, you have a long way to go to do that.
And I try and squeeze it in, but it's probably, I guess it's my favorite. I don't know if it's my favorite sport because it's so rare to me, or if it's my favorite sport because it is the most fun.
Well, both of those are good reasons.
yeah, definitely. Yeah. But I like anything outside. I went snowshoeing for the first time. I thought that was just hiking on snow. And in Tennessee, we just don't get enough snow to want snowshoeing.
So, that makes a lot of sense.
I had some good friends on Mount Rainier that were good to me and took me snowshoeing in February this year. It was fun.
And do you have any suggestions or advice for folks either wanting to get into the outdoor biz or if they're already in to grow their career?
Yeah. I mean, start small, I guess. Start on the sales floor,
A lot of people have said that.
Yeah. And, a lot of vendors, you've got to have that baseline of knowledge before I think you can really rise up. You need to learn how to sell the things that you love and learn how to sell things you don't really love.
Right.
But it's, small businesses, especially, we hire from within.
Yeah.
So if we see somebody on our sales floor that's doing great, they're going to be a manager. And if we see a manager that's doing great, they'll, eventually get into merchandising or buying or, and that's the organic process. But I think it's cool to see how some universities around the country are now even offering outdoor business degrees.
Right. Outdoor rec industry related degrees. You're right.
Yeah,
I had a degree in outdoor recreation, but it was not the business side of it at all. So that's glad to see that shift in here. I agree.
Or even, design for outdoor,
right.
where, half the sourcing is based on its ecologic friendliness.
Right. Yeah. It's good to see that shift. Yeah.
Yeah. It's really fun to say. I'm an elbow greaser though. Get in, whatever you want to do, just get in, get your hands dirty, work hard, and and it all pays off if you just put in the effort.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. And do you have any daily routines you use to keep your sanity? You meditate, exercise, walk the dog?
I know, I exercise. I do have some good pets. I guess exercise. Try to exercise at least once a day.
Good.
And eat well. I'm one of those people, I think, that just thrives in chaos. So keeping my sanity, I've just got to have a challenge ahead.
Cool. Well, retail these days, you have challenges daily, I'm sure.
Oh my God, it's so competitive. And it's not just consumer habits and competition that's changing retail. It's interesting watching, we've got a whole generation that's overcoming, baby boomers, I guess, they've owned the markets for a long time now, and millennials have just surpassed them as far as dollars being spent in the economy, and that's a whole new ball game.
Yeah, and they shop completely differently. I mean, they're so online focused.
So fun. Yeah. I mean, they're interested. What are you doing to save the earth?
Right.
But I'm answer for that now.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we talked about that on the show a couple episodes ago with Gordon from Toad & Co. And it's great that these consumers now are, holding us to account for what we're doing and the path we're choosing and making sure it's all sustainable. That's great.
Yeah. I love it. I love it.
Do you have any favorite books, or do you give books as gifts very often?
I do. I've got two books. I've got a fiction and a nonfiction.
Cool.
And it depends on the person, how we've connected as to which one you're going to give.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah.
So shout out to all the Outlander fans out there. Most guys are not going to have any idea what I mean by that, but if you're a woman in my life and you're into adventure and you don't read, or you're mediocre on reading, I'll give you an Outlander book. And that's a series of books by a woman. She's a scientist named Diana Gabaldon. Kind of a time travel. This is obviously the fiction one. It's a time travel adventure book.
Oh, cool! I'll check that out.
And, it's great. And so, if anybody hasn't read it out there, just call me and I'll mail you a copy. Then the other book I give is, and you may have read it. Jared Diamond. He's into science as well. So he wrote a book in the late 90s called Guns, Germs, and Steel.
Yeah, great book.
Great book. It's a big book.
Huge book.
It is so valuable. I mean, I feel like everyone can benefit from reading that book.
Yeah.
So that's one that I've given as a gift a few times.
That's a good one.
That's
a big book, though. You're right. That's a huge gift. I mean, plan on spending some time if you're going to read that one.
And the more time you spend on, the more you'll think of me, right?
Yeah, that's right. There you go. That's right. Yeah. No, that's awesome. Yeah. And do you have a favorite piece of outdoor gear under $100?
Certainly. God, there's a ton.
Yeah.
Well, one thing I give as a gift a lot that people don't generally drop money on, but they should, is like smart wool socks.
Oh, yeah.
I look around. If I see somebody in a white cotton sock, it just makes me cringe. So maybe I'm just a sock snob myself, but I wear the smart wool Secret Sleuths.
Okay.
Every day. It's just that's such an easy, quintessential outdoor gear purchase. Everybody that you have on the show, I'm sure, is not being interviewed in white cotton socks.
Yeah, I would support that thought. Yep. I'm sure they're not.
I would say, and not that there's anything wrong. They definitely cover your feet. And,
right.
But I'm a big sock person, I guess.
I like it. That's a good one. Yeah, cool. That's great. Well, as we finish up, is there anything else you'd like to say to our audience or ask of our audience?
Take a friend outside the next time you go outdoors. Take somebody that's never been, or take somebody that has been a million times. Just take a buddy.
There you go.
Get out of our little cell phone worlds and
that's great. That's great advice. I love that. And if people want to reach out and follow up with you, how can they do that? Email, Twitter?
Yeah, email's great. I'm on all the social media things, but email is easy. It's Sara, Sara, at rockcreek.com.
Awesome. Well, we'll put a link to that in the show notes. If you guys have questions for Sara, you can reach out. Well, thanks, Sara. It's been great chatting with you again.
Thanks, Rick.
Yeah,
appreciate you.
Always fun. Yeah, it's been fun. I'll look forward to seeing you at OR in August, right? In summer.
Yeah, right on. Sounds good.
We'll connect for a beer or something.
Good, and enjoy that move you've got coming up.
Yeah, I will. It won't be too bad, but yeah, it'll be fun. Cool. Well, thanks. Have a good day.
Yeah. Thank you. You too.
Right. Bye-bye. All right. I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Sara Ray Lewis. You can catch up with Sara by email at sara@rockcreek.com. Sara is spelled Sara. You'll find links to everything we discussed in the show notes at theoutdoorbizpodcast.com/episode 93. Be sure to hit your favorite podcast app and subscribe today. Thanks for listening. Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. I've used Audible for many years now. I'm on the road a lot, and Audible allows me to enjoy the great books I discover or are recommended by friends. Get a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial at www.audibletrial.com/theoutdoorbizpodcast. There are over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. Start your 30-day free trial with Audible today. If you want more of the Outdoor Biz Podcast, you can subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcast. Be sure and go to theoutdoorbizpodcast.com where you'll find all the episodes, show notes, and much, much more. Thanks for listening, and until next time, be sure to make time to get outside.